All right, I'm going to go in here and share it because my phone is no
Awesome.
longer working.
Oh, really? Yeah, I gotta grab
Yeah,
mine.
I had to order a new battery, man. It was hang on, it's not showing up. Let's see.
That's
There it
bizarre.
is. But yeah, my battery started looked like it was having a baby. You know how you
Wait,
have the back,
what?
yeah, yeah, you know how you have the back on the phones,
Right.
It was I couldn't even shut it. I couldn't snap it shut because it kept getting bigger and bigger. So I figured, you know what? This
Wow.
thing's gonna blow up or something. So I just ordered another one. It'll be here in a couple days. Let me just share it one more place. Do you need me to share it anywhere?
Um, I don't think so.
Okay.
I should
You
be able
good?
to. Yeah. Oh, just gonna turn my volume down.
There you go. You got it. All right.
Yeah. Here we
All
go.
righty. Let's see what we got here. Hang
All
on.
right.
All right.
And just going to
Okay, you got it. All right.
do.
All right. Now let me set up the screen. Here we go. So we
Awesome.
can see what the brothers and sisters got to say.
See what's going on.
All right, we got Peter J. Pan, Jenna Harmon's in the house. Michael Van Patten. He says your energy birthed a new paradigm within the battery. Yeah, so it kept getting bigger and bigger.
That's
All right,
awesome.
so everybody, we're getting this thing rolling slowly but surely. I had a long talk with Mother Goddess yesterday in the middle of Lagoon.
In the
With the
middle
ocean and the mountains and she said, chill out. You guys are not running on linear time. You're running on quantum time, and energetically it's already done. So keep putting it out there. So what you're getting ready to launch here pretty soon, what we're going to be talking about is right in line with everything else that's happening. So this is the Michele Phillips weekly show. It has to do with self-healing in a very unique way by her own journey, as so many have discovered in one way or another when it comes to the broad term healing. But particularly when it comes with the physical body, uh, debilitating chronic illnesses and conditions, her experience has been that she cured herself and has discovered through the connection with infinite intelligence how to uh, create a template to cure others,
Yeah.
as they can, in the same way they can cure themselves. So, for anyone who hasn't heard her story, that's a little synopsis of it. And it's a pleasure to have her on the Soulogy Network. And this is a big week. We got a lot of really good shows. I'll be involved with or producing, and next week we're just going to add a little bit more and just keep going and stop putting deadlines out there.
Lots to do.
Yeah. I figured, in the internet age that everything moves fast, like the way we learn moves fast, what we're taking in, the expansion. And I figured technology was keeping up with it. So, some things I thought would take a day or two are going to take like 2 weeks.
Oh, I know.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I,
no, technology and I don't always get along.
Well, maybe it's one of those matrix constraints, where they're not sharing the real evolution or
Yeah.
reality of technology, but it doesn't really matter, which leads me to a question. So, how is there a relation? And I know there's the theta healing, and I know there's other modalities that pinpoint, which is what really Reiki is, pinpointing energetic healing energy, pure love energy, whatever.
Mhm.
But is there a relationship, in your opinion? I'm just curious as to what you think because of your journey. Is there a relation between, I guess, the healing and the cracking of the matrix, or the
Mhm.
removal of lenses and seeing things clearer and clearer and clearer? You think there's some type of relation? What is it?
Absolutely. Yeah. A lot of us tend to get in our own way, and it's not that we're trying to do that. It's we're conditioned to believe what we see, what we can hear, smell, taste, and touch. And we rarely stop to question why we believe certain things, why we think certain things, and the people in our lives that have a way of instilling their beliefs into us. So we're kind of like a product of everything that we've been exposed to from the moment we were born, right? So our subconscious starts creating programs the moment we're born based on how it perceives it is being rewarded. The subconscious mind is there to keep you safe. It's there for survival. So if your subconscious has tried something and it worked to keep you safe, and that's the quickest and easiest way that it knows to do something, it's going to keep repeating that pattern over and over again until it learns a new, better coping mechanism to doing that. Like, for example, when I was born, I was blue, my lungs weren't developed, the umbilical cord was wrapped around my neck and tied in a knot, supposed to die. So immediately,
You know, I don't want to interrupt you because you're on one hell of a roll. Whatever you're drinking or smoking or eating, just keep doing it. But do you know that same thing happened to me?
oh
Same
yeah,
thing happened to Morgan. Yeah. And I can't remember the other people, but it's something common with Blu-rays.
I've heard that too. I've heard that. It's like something tries to take us out before we even get our feet on the ground, so to speak,
Right.
right? So
Yeah. And maybe
yeah.
that was some type of walk-in moment. Hey, so you were talking, I don't want to get off that. So you were talking that, and I'm thinking to myself, right? I mean, get back on it. No, but oh my God, I just had it in my head what you were saying that I wanted to bring back up. What you were talking about? Oh, I was going to say, okay, so the subconscious, is this an example or an extreme example? Probably.
Sure,
So
sure.
the subconscious, if we satisfy it, is that what you were saying? Yeah.
Um,
Well, I take that
yeah,
back. I'm sorry.
your
The
sub-
intellect,
okay, yeah,
the egoic, I guess is what. So when you satisfy it, then everything's cool. But
right,
the satisfaction is it means one thing on one side of the veil and one thing on the other. So that
exactly.
satisfaction could be shopping, eating, drinking, drugging,
All of
sexaholic.
the 3D ways that we typically go about looking for a state of satisfaction, when really the bottom line of all of the modalities and everything out there that teaches us healing in any way, shape, and form is that everything we need is already inside of us.
Yeah, yeah,
And when we came into this world, we brought it with us.
yeah,
We are, if we can go inside, we are home. This is where,
yeah,
where everything is inside.
yeah,
So really it's about letting go of the limiting beliefs, which we've been programmed to think through this 3D survival mechanism of fight or flight, which is how your subconscious learns all of its programs.
yeah,
So your subconscious is always kind of, it's like if you're going to drive a car, you don't consciously think, I've got to put my key in the ignition, I must turn it so many degrees to the right and then press on the brake while I shift this. It's
yeah.
already a program that you have in your subconscious already, so you just automatically jump in the car and you drive.
Yeah, but you had to be conditioned for that, right? That's the point, and that's a great example. That's a
Yeah,
great physical representation of an
yeah,
energetic
yeah,
program.
yeah,
Where you're programmed versus you're doing the programming, right? I mean,
right.
because you do have to get on a bike. Like, we all had those moments where we're scared to let go of the training wheels,
Yeah,
But then it becomes you don't even think about it,
exactly.
which goes back to the hardcore, the hardening of these conditions that like I was bringing up as examples of drinking, smoking, shopping, whatever it is.
Yeah,
Right.
because that you would use that as a coping mechanism because
Yeah.
that's what worked for you in the past.
I
So
think that just gave me a great idea for your show because we're starting to look into putting some stuff together that we can exchange equally with people as
yeah,
opposed to contributions only, although it's the same thing in an energetic basis. But
yeah.
one of the things I was thinking is we could get some Sology pacifiers to remind us when we're sucking on the pacifier, because that's what all those things are, right?
They are. They really are. They're all coping mechanisms,
Mm-hmm.
you
And
know?
that's how the Matrix yeah, or whatever you want to call it. Think about it. What's the first thing that one of the first things they do? They put the pacifier in your mouth. So immediately from day one, they're engaging that false consciousness or the
Yeah.
programming it versus us maintaining the power
Yeah.
of the programming. Yeah,
Right.
very cool.
Absolutely. It's all about survival. Your subconscious is here to survive, and it will keep doing whatever it's been doing that has worked for it
Yeah,
for some time. And it doesn't make sense when you think about, like, one of the questions I'll ask people when doing healing is I ask them how it's serving them. And a lot of times they look at me like, well, no, it's not serving me. Like, are you kidding me? I got cancer. I'm dying. What do you mean? Like, like, how is it serving me? And it's like, it's not serving you in a way that you think it's a good thing. It's serving you like maybe you just needed a break and you wouldn't give yourself permission to look after yourself and take a break. So your body created this crazy illness, forcing you to look at something deep inside
yeah,
yourself that needs
yeah,
healing.
yeah,
And it's 90% of the time, it's an emotional thing, or just, something gets thrown off balance. Disease does not happen overnight.
yeah.
It's a process of neglecting your needs,
Hmm.
um, listening to the wrong voices, and not following.
Not listening and listening at the
Yeah.
same time. But this is awesome, and this is why I love doing this work, because we are in a quantum existence now. So
Exactly.
everything is becoming quantum. And I've been Michael Van Patten. He's been putting together these 3 to 12 minute snippets of the collaborators. So I
Right.
was just starting to get some of the early ones, and I'm watching them and and broadcasting them. And one of them was with Lisa Transcendence Brown, and she talks about how it's quantum. And she
Mm.
talks about what's actually happening. And one of the reasons I want to bring this up is because Peter J. Pan, I can't, I hope I didn't mess your name up too bad. He brought up and he said, is this not a science?
Mm.
And I'm thinking like spirit science. Yeah, it's another
Mhm.
integration. So she
Mhm.
was saying what's happening, and what's happening is at the time, which I think this was about 2 months ago from this show we did.
Right.
She was talking about the oh god, it wasn't star codes, atomic codes that were coming in,
Mm.
right,
Okay.
and they were going right to the carbon based everything on the earth in us and so on
Yeah.
and so on. It's photonic, and that basically it could be very difficult on people
Mm.
who haven't opened their mind, who haven't
Mhm.
acknowledged what's happening, or whatever the case is. It could be translated to me in different ways.
I
Who have
know,
the
right?
passive, who have the bigger pacifiers. Let's put it that
Yeah.
way, and 'cause we all do, right? And so, but she was just saying that. And if I look at the correlation between that and what you've been doing, and so many other people have been doing, it's like we've leveled up now. So
Mm.
that energy that took, like if you look at her case, for instance, her whole transformation took years and
Mm.
years and years. But people that are exposed to that energy and accept it and are open minded to it can do that in much shorter period of time,
Oh,
which is
it's
goes
look
back.
at the children.
Yeah. So the energy,
Great.
yeah. So the energy, yeah. And that's what I was trying to get your perspective was like the
Mm.
energy of what you've done is so powerful and forceful, that it's carrying into its own vibration. At the same time, what does that look like? I mean, and I think I asked you this before, but I'm just like totally consumed with it. What does it look like with your clients? Like people you worked with today versus a year ago, both where they were and you were.
Yeah, it's well, of course, practice always with practice, everything gets better with practice. But what I'm finding now is I'm able to see in the body, and I can actually see differences between bacterium and virus. I can tell which one it is. I can see which part of the body is being affected. And it's just a simple question of asking creator to clarify that which is being presented to me, which is all on a quantum level. Like, yeah, it's in my head, of course, but that's where we all live, right? It's all, well, not in our head, you know what I mean? Like in our
Mhm.
heart space, right? But it's
Right,
all
right.
connected. So creator always gives you a visual for whatever it is you've commanded. And commanded is not, oh, creator, do this. No, command is like a co-creation, right? So we make the command when we go into a theta state. For example, what I could do is I could say, creator, it is commanded that unconditional love be sent to Todd Medina and every cell in his body right now in the highest and best way and into every area of his life. Thank you. It is done. It is done. It is done. Please show me. And then in the theta state, I'm able to go up and witness creator sending you unconditional love. And I see it going into every cell of your body and reaching out into every area of your life.
Yeah.
There have been people where times where I'm like, okay, well, you know, they're tired today. What is there something that needs to know? And I'd be like, what's with your toe? And I don't know how I know, but I'm just like, a toe.
Yeah.
And like, oh, well, actually I'm having a gout flare up. And it's like, oh, and then, well, what's causing the gout? Well, then it turns out, well, you hyperuricemia. So then we can even ask creator, it is commanded that we balance out the uric acid levels in the body to the optimum, the most optimum levels. Right. And then
instead of being programmed.
Yeah.
Now does the client, do they sometimes see what you're seeing or see things that you don't see? Because obviously, I mean, I don't want to take this for granted because I mean, this is why we do these shows.
Right.
Your higher self working with their higher self and creator, basically that triad. And so this information is a small piece of the universal that contains everything in that field.
Yeah.
And so do they ever see things that you see, or is it mutual, or see things that you haven't?
I've never really had somebody do that to me yet. I mean, we'll always hear, you know, people's opinions and things like that. But usually 9 times out of 10, what I'm here is, oh, wow. And I have no idea what it is. That's creator's job, not mine. Right. So literally I'm just the liaison between this person, the client, and creator, and creator will show me what they need to know to get out of their own way of healing. Yeah. And I just relay the information. He'll give me the command that I say he, but she, who knows, creator will give
source, whatever.
Exactly. Source energy.
OG.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like, it doesn't matter what name you call it. As long as you believe in a higher power of some divine intelligence of any kind, the wording doesn't matter. It really doesn't. And a lot of people get hung up on that. I remember I had a friend in Kuwait who was on the show one time. I remember she came in, and where she's from, it's Allah, right? So I mean, if you were to ask somebody in the States, like, well, can I ask Allah to do da 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 da? They'd be like, oh, hell no, right?
Well, you know, it's semantics. But you know, as I'm looking at this tree behind you, very striking. So, and again, correlating what I was talking about with Lisa Transcendence Brown and in your type of journey, where
it's funny you bring up I painted that while listening to one of her activations.
Wow.
So there are light codes.
I've got some of them. I bought some from her. They're very good. I mean, no, she kind of comped me. It was an even exchange, but yeah, I got some of them. They're pretty cool. Now, what I was going to say is we're back to energy. It's energy. And what I was seeing as you were describing that, I was seeing like at the base of the tree is the human beings, right? And,
right.
Or, you know, that level, that realm. And then what happens is one has we all have access up the tree, and one, you know, and there's all these different branches, and each one of us can go off into these branches where maybe other people haven't hit yet.
Right.
Because eventually we're going to become the whole tree. And they pull that energy. They pull that energy because they're in alignment with it, and they bring it back down to the surface, and then it connects with the person you're working with or the environment you're in or whatever it may be. So that's the quantum. That's it. That's the and as it translates, it could be directions, it could be something that looks very physical or linear, but it's really just energy being expressed in the physical realm.
Yep. And one thing I've noticed that I just absolutely love is Creator will always show you in your language what needs to be done.
I
So
know
that,
he or she cusses a lot to me.
yeah, right? Or, like, yeah, I get a lot of, "Okay, Michelle, that's just brain candy," because I tend to overanalyze and overthink things, right? And a lot of times it's like, "Okay, Michelle, brain candy, stop it." It's like, refocus, right? But yeah, it's really interesting when you watch the witnessing, and that is quantum theory explained right there. Is like when they did the double slit experiment. I don't know if you're familiar with that. Um,
I think I haven't. I'm not familiar with that, but I'm familiar with what Peter Pan just put up. He said, observing creates reality. So
yeah, and infinite.
observe without judgment, something like that. What was
Yeah.
it? What was it? Tell me about it.
Well, what it is it's a double slit experiment. So the scientists got together because they knew something they couldn't explain was happening. So they went quantum down to the smallest particle that they could find. And they had this little electron microscope, and they would observe through one slit, they would fire a particle. And in the background, it would create, yes, the one line in the same shape as the slit. So they added another slit. So it was two slits, and they were firing electrons through these two slits. So they expected to see two slits showing up on the screen behind them. But that's not what was happening. What was happening is they were getting an interference pattern the same way that they would get with a wave, like they would all cancel each other out. Mm-hmm. So that led them to say, what's going on here? So they observed it. So they shot the particles once again through the double slit, and they observed. And what happened when they observed the particles, because in their mind, they're thinking, well, no, they're supposed to go in two straight lines, not in the wave pattern that they were getting before. So when they observe, well, now they're getting the two slits instead of the...
Observe it observing without judgment.
Yeah. So it's as though the particles knew they were being watched, and so they had to behave accordingly. Right?
That's interesting. Yeah, that's... I think that's and it works both ways. I think that's profound, and I'll tell you why. Because thinking you're being watched, okay? Think about it. Thinking you're being watched. That's just, 3 or 4 words. Thinking you're being watched. I had this happen to me yesterday, and it took me back to the 2 years I was expanding on the streets when this all started. And what would happen back then is I noticed that because I went deep immediately, like so many of us did immediately, and I went deep. So I was in my own world, and I very quickly became aware that I didn't give a shift who was watching me doing whatever the hell I was doing. You know what I mean? And so there was something that was unlocked there, or reignited, or whatever, rediscovered. And so I went out. I had about 2 or 3 days. I started getting real human in 3D. Working. Not even, I'm in Hawaii almost 3 weeks. And I'm like, okay. I've been out like 3 or 4 times. I've been in the water once. So I heard, go down to the lagoon and it's private. And I was like, all right. But when I went down there, I was walking in the water, and there's people up on the beach, but I was by myself, and I started to realize that I was carrying that vibration of what people, like, they're looking at me energetically. In other words, all the pressure I was putting on me wasn't even real. So I went back to that space of just being when you're not thinking that. And then I was okay. Yeah. Then I was okay.
Yeah.
So that's a powerful little quantum exercise, I think.
Yeah. The simple act of observation and knowing that you're being watched, it changes everything. So you're open to infinite possibilities.
Yeah.
So when we say that we are limitless and that we are infinite beings, we really are. We are open to that.
And like you said, one way or the other, you got to get out of your own way.
Yeah.
And I think that's why silence or meditation or taking a walk or whatever the case is works, because you're focused on being, and the being creates this magical, healing, alchemic cosmic reaction.
Yes, yes. It is so amazing what happens when we get out of our own way. And when we do that through meditation with the intent to connect with source energy, things are always working out for us, whether we believe that or not.
It's true, man.
It is. It
It's
is.
true.
But we get in our own way. And I've actually been struggling a lot this week with the things that I can see, hear, smell, taste, and touch, throwing me off because they're getting my attention. And it's like, no, 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 no. Reminder, go back to center, ground, meditate, releasing all resistance. And like Abraham Hicks says, my cork will float because that's what normally happens. So,
and that's what needs, well, I don't want to say that's what needs to, but if we can be programmed from the day we put a pacifier in our mouth, and it becomes second nature, and everything that we do becomes second nature, like riding a bike, driving a car. You got to think that at a quantum level, the same thing is going to happen. It's going to become second nature to be in this state because this is our natural state. Now, there's a great question up here that we can keep this conversation going. I love the freestyling. So Peter Pan again says, but here's one question: who observes the observer? I like to have a shot at that. Then you can take it. But here's what I'm seeing. Everything is inside of us. Everything that because that's like the way you led the show with. I mean, what you explained is true.
Right.
And so everything I'm experiencing, is that reflection. So who observes the observer? I believe the observer is observing himself.
Yes.
This is just me now. This isn't like yogi guru stuff. It's just my opinion. And this is really an energetic explanation I'm trying to put into words. So the observer's observing him or herself.
Yep.
And so as the observer takes out the judgment, expectations, external blame, whatever, external anything, then it all comes to you. And to your point, I totally agree. And that is that if we get out of our way, not only does the magic come, but the magic comes as a reflection of ourselves. And as we gain critical mass, the whole entire freaking universe changes. You know?
The momentum builds.
Yeah.
You know, just like in a volcano, right? You get the little bit of heat started and it heats up other particles and heats up other particles. And eventually, kaboom, you get, you can't contain it because it's explosive, the amount that's there. So
it's explosive, like a mad Latino when it comes to work done. And the mother goddess says, get your butt down to that lagoon.
Yes. Yeah. Oh, that sounds beautiful. I would have loved to seen that. Oh, goodness.
It was actually really cool. I had a really profound hour in the water.
I bet.
Really a lot of alignment, and to see it happening with the wind or the clouds, or there was a sprinkle of rain. I mean, there was a little fish that waved at me. There was this other stuff that happened. And that, I think, is always there, but we get caught up in, I'm very guilty of it, trying to put this network out as fast as possible. But but if we just look, it's there.
Yeah.
It's there.
It's already here. We keep running around trying to create things when we've already got it in our back pocket. We just don't know how to get there yet, And I completely understand it can be very frustrating knowing you have all this good stuff in your pocket and you don't quite well, that's great. So how do I get it from my pocket into my bank account or into, my life where, I can use it? And I wish I had a quick answer for that.
That's but that's still it's either, like you said, like you said so eloquently, part of you is listening and part of you is not listening. The part of you that's listening is listening to the voice that doesn't even exist. That's the pacifier voice. It's the pacifier voice. Yeah. That's the devil. That's the pacifier. And the other one that you're not listening to is the one that rarely says anything, but you need to listen to. And now it's getting louder. Now it's
Yeah.
getting, and that's another great point. Getting back to what we term as sickness or whatever,
Disease.
is okay. So what's happening now in this, and now that it's getting quantum, is that both voices are getting louder,
Mm,
and the reflection's getting louder.
mm,
So,
that
I'm
makes
listening
sense.
to the
Yeah.
voice that rarely talks. But
Yes.
even then, it took 3 days of me about to lose it, trying to integrate all this stuff, because I remember doing that, until I heard that Mother Goddess voice, Dragon Mother Goddess, say to me, "You get out now,"
Yeah.
and I'm like, "Yes, yeah, I'm
Yeah.
going."
Yeah. I get it. Okay. Okay. It's like, get out before I burn the house down to get you there, because that's where you're supposed to be right now.
Yeah, yeah,
You know, and that's one thing I found with divine timing, which a lot of people try to make things happen, but there's a rhythm to
yep,
everything, rhythms and
yep,
cycles that are preordained, and we don't understand why. It's not our job to understand why. And I have one example that I was taught about this. It was actually my teacher who taught me the theta healing. Um, she had a friend who died suddenly of heart, and she was like 30 years old, very young, and her heart just stopped. Her parents knew that she was an organ donor and was very adamant about organ donation. So her parents happened to be very high up in the legislature of the Canadian government. And at that time, there were so many hoops and things that had to be jumped through in order for somebody to meet the requirements for organ donation. So meanwhile, there's all these people who needed, cornea, heart, liver, tissues, whatever it would be they needed. But because she died suddenly, her organs were still fine, but they didn't understand it. So they were going to just let her pass without doing anything with her tissues. But because of who her parents were and who they knew, they ended up changing in the legislature. And it's actually global now, that about, what is it now? I think it's 25% more organ and tissue donation happens today because of that one person.
yeah,
Right. So we don't
yeah,
understand the bigger picture because we're not observing the bigger
yeah.
picture, right? We're so focused on what's right in front of us, right? But who's to say her soul didn't make that agreement before entering? I'm going to
Yeah.
come into this body. I'm going to live the best life I possibly can. I'm going to die quickly, and then we're going to change legislature over countries,
Well,
right?
I had that happen today. What you're saying, and the thought came to me, or I would say it's not a thought to me; it's my truth. All right, so
Mm.
I'm just, doesn't mean anything to anyone else. But what it was because, and the reason this happened is because I work with, like I do with you, with Katie and the Crow,
Right.
and in this conversation, or in this energy, I was, whatever experiences I was having over the last couple of hours. So it was Lisa Transcendence Brown and Katie. And I know that we communicate upstairs, so to
Yeah.
speak, galactic, in a galactic level.
Yeah.
I know a little bit of the history, let's put it that way. This is all energetic, right? And so I thought to myself, okay, I what I got was, this is how it works. You come down here, your higher self, we all say, this is what we're going to do. Let's go have
Mm.
fun. Let's go have fun. And what happens is, it's all predicated on our ability to communicate with our higher self.
Yes.
So our higher self is saying, "Hey, I know I can remember. I know I can get this right. I know I'll hear you." And the other one's going, "Man, you're too masculine, Todd. You're too alpha. You're never going to hear me say anything. I'm trying to tell you. Don't you know he's not listening?" So it's like we're going to bat for the human being, the
Yeah.
beautiful human being,
Yeah.
and that's how we co-create, is by developing, like you were talking about with the healing. You've
Yeah.
got it's really like,
The
the
path of
two
least
higher
resistance.
selves and the source,
Yeah.
and that's the magic right there. That's, I think, that 369 that Tesla talks about.
Yes, I was looking at that the other day too, and that's something else. There's so much brain candy out there. I just want to dive into all of it, and like osmosis, if I could just learn it by looking at all of it. And hey, who says we can't, right? Because with theta healing, Do you remember the movie The Matrix and when they downloaded Neo with the Kung Fu?
I've never seen The
You've
Matrix.
never seen it?
I was thinking about watching. I don't watch movies. I was thinking about watching it the other night, and I made a different choice, and
Uh,
couldn't have been any worse than when I watched it.
But there was a scene where that happened where I think it's Morpheus and Neo, they're in the Matrix and they need to learn how to fight for whatever reason.
So they program them with Kung Fu.
Yeah. So literally the guy up in the office or whatever, he plugs in the Kung Fu program and it's downloaded immediately. So a lot of times people who need healing, I will ask them to muscle test that I know, or I love myself unconditionally. I have unconditional love for myself and it matches the way the creator feels about me. And a lot of times people will say it'll hold tight for yes until it matches the way creator's definition of unconditional love. And then it's a no. Because how can we ever know what it's like to love without condition, right? Our whole existence has been based on conditions, right? But what's really interesting is when people muscle test no for that, I can go up into theta and I can command that they have that download so that they know what it feels like to be loved unconditionally and what unconditional love from the creator actually feels like. And when I do that,
when you do that, do you ask them or how does that work? I'm talking about who you're working with.
Yeah, always ask permission.
So there, and I'm just bringing that up because I have been a student. I have been a client with Morgan Lee for 3 years.
Okay,
but I never understood that. Like I thought, what is that? Some kind of formality, like we used to. I know when I got started, I used to be like, okay, I'm bringing in Father God, Mother Universe, these people, those people, everybody protect me. Yeah. I'm going into the ethers, the boogeyman's out there, But no, but the thing is, I never understood. But now that you're saying that, I just want to, make that point to our friends is that that's creating that triad. See, that's what I'm seeing energetically is because that we cannot will anything on anybody.
Right.
You used a great word a while ago, witness. You get to witness it. And that's really what's happening. And I think that's something that's starting to come out in this quantum as we've come into quantum, is that people thought that they were being healed, whether it be a doctor or a quack or a spiritual healer or whatever. But the reality is they're healing themselves. They're allowing that, just like prayers. When we pray and we're in alignment, we always get it. That's just the way it always works.
Yes.
So that's important, and it also, it takes nothing away from what we'll call a healer or a practitioner, because the very gift of actually seeing that, witnessing that healing both in the ethers and in the physical is incredible.
It is. It really is. And what's interesting is if I am working with somebody and they don't want a certain download, I'll use my husband, for example, because really, who do we want to change more than our spouses, right? Everybody has they need this, they need that. Just as a side note, that usually means you need it, not them. Give it to yourself first.
Exactly. Exactly.
But I will notice if I'm like, okay, so would you like to, and I'll say something, and they're like, yeah, okay, and I'll try, and it's like I'm blocked. I can feel blocked.
Oh yeah.
I'm not.
Well, that happens. Not anymore, but it used to happen with Morgan working with me. But I've heard of that too, and I think that again, we're looking at experiential, human situations, linear situations, or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
And so that's really no different than somebody saying, well, the energy of it is different, but the energy of it, saying like the doctor says, you've got cancer. Right. No, I don't. Or I'm going to die. It immediately goes one way or the other.
Yeah.
And that's really how it all goes. My
right. So do you accept that as your reality or not?
That's right.
right?
But it goes even further. Like, do you
Yep.
accept it's medicine? You know,
Yes.
like you did. You know, you were like, okay, I'm going to do this, but I'm going to keep digging. I'm going to keep
Yeah.
digging, and I'm going to keep digging.
Yes.
And I know other people like that. So yeah,
Yeah.
it's the same type of energy, and that's another thing I think that's coming out now
Hmm.
is that many people, and I throw myself in everything. You know, I
Yeah.
mean, I'm no different than anybody. And I'm getting a tone right now because I'm going to show my ass. But you get to a point where you're moving and you're moving quickly and you're gaining power and skills and abilities, but at the same time there's a humility frequency
Mm.
that elevates with you, and
Mm.
you've got to stay in touch with that and at the same time stay in touch with your shadow.
Yeah.
But yeah, I see
Right,
that
those
happening
people are
right now.
both
I see
every time.
people. They're some people. They're Everyone's kind of catching up with each other. Is what
Yeah.
I'm saying. The
Yeah.
the hierarchy, it's the kind of thing is kind of going away, and I think that's trying on some people, and that goes back to what we were talking about at the top of the show with the
Yeah.
whole thing about not listening, not listening to the and uh and if you're not listening, it's becoming uncomfortable, and that's energetic, but it comes out
Yeah.
so much in these physical
Yeah.
situations.
Yeah. It really does. Like even I'll see have an argument with somebody, and then the next day, all of a sudden, you get a little eczema on your skin. Well, somebody rubbed you the wrong way.
Yeah. Hey.
There's so many different things. Like last week, I was having this issue with my hip. It was like so painful, and then I was like, oh, right hip. I was afraid to take the next step forward because I didn't know if I was going to have the support that I needed to do what it was I needed to do. So once I treated it as though it was like a puzzle instead of something that was happening to me.
Right.
It's where you can take your power back and you can meditate on that, like creator, show me what it is I'm trying to learn through this, because we don't choose to go through things for just no reason. Our subconscious actually thinks we're going to learn something from bullshit that we go through. And it makes
Well, I think our higher self spent a lot of time laughing myself. But
oh
no,
my goodness, yes.
I hear what you're saying though, and because when I went down to the lagoon yesterday, I was having a couple of problems, and I
Right.
knew that.
Yeah.
I knew I'm having a problem with a tooth, and
Okay.
I'm like, okay, this is not working. This other method of being stubborn, I might as well hit my head on the
I
wall.
know.
But when I went down there, I had that thought in my head, but I had some other things, because there's always multiple things.
Oh yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
To me, there is like this and that and this and that, and I want to align.
It's like it splits off, and you can find other things to blame it on and stuff. It's
or get distracted with,
yeah.
like working too much, which doesn't take away with your
Right.
passion for your work, So, but anyway, it had manifested into a tooth, and I forget what else. My back. I had
Okay.
a little tweak in my back.
Right.
So I went down there. I got in the water. I saw this, like these. They put up here on the beach. People will get driftwood and they'll build like little structures.
Oh yes. Okay.
And there was this really cool one, and it was right in the middle of the beach that I'm looking at, which is contained in a cove, which has a cliff on each side. It's like a giant U.
Oh wow, it sounds beautiful.
To me, it's like and I mean this with all reverence, a uterus. It's like the womb, So I'm looking at it, and I'm getting all this alignment, and I see these two little sticks sticking out of the water, and I'm like, that's kind of dangerous. So I got to pick one up, and it moves, and it's about 8 feet long, and I hold it up in balance, and for about an hour, I started doing these motions, just different things. Like I've been doing it all my life, but my conscious thought was to the physical, like the tooth,
Right.
Where it was, what it was, and all this stuff, and also to my back. I was able to connect with that. My point is that I took care of it. I've never done that before to that degree. It never happened that spontaneously, but that was, that was a cure. Like you said,
Awesome.
it's like a puzzle. Like that's not it. That's not, or this piece might fit, and let's try this and let's try that. Yeah.
Yeah. It's amazing. Like,
I called in all aspects. So, well, they're here, but I was like, I need all aspects front and center, period.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Because
absolutely.
it's all us.
It is. It really is. And it's about coming into alignment, because when we're in alignment, there is no dis-ease in true alignment. So that's where, when you
What is it?
focus.
I have to ask a dumb question. What does it mean? I see that all the time. I used to say this about Namaste years ago. What the hell does that mean? I was too afraid to ask him. But when people say dis dash ease versus
Right.
disease, what do they mean by that?
I
Because I don't know.
Okay, sure, absolutely. What I mean when I say dis-ease, basically it's me breaking down the word disease, right? Because a lot of people, disease, illness, da da da, they're one and the same. No, dis-ease is a
Yeah,
state, right?
yeah,
It's a state of unease,
yeah. It's like,
right?
yeah, I was going to say like using whatever you call it, whatever you
Prefix,
call it,
the
prefix.
prefix,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, I get that. So the
yeah,
emphasis becomes, it's like the paradoxical teaching of the universe. So
yeah,
the emphasis becomes on the word ease, right?
exactly.
Yeah,
Because when you're
that's
in
what I thought.
ease, you
That's a
flow.
brilliant. Yeah, that's brilliant.
Yeah,
No wonder so many people know what it is, and I didn't. But that's okay. That's all
that's
right.
totally fine. Yeah, but
So
I'm
yeah,
sorry.
go ahead. No, I was going to ask you another question. Go ahead. Keep
Oh,
going.
okay.
I'll
So
remember. I'll remember. It's
yeah,
a good one.
disease is a state, and I'm also finding that there are certain gifts that we can find in a state of dis-ease, where it is a state like the same way we could have a state of ignorance and then learn, okay, well, be willing to learn, and then you find the gift of enlightenment or whatever it is. But with dis-ease, that being the bottom state, the shadow state that you're in, and then look for the gift of presence. Being present through your dis-ease will bring you back into alignment and
Yeah,
create well-being,
yeah,
which is
yeah.
another state.
Yeah.
And that's the state where everything works out for you, regardless of what's going on in your outside world, because everything we want is on the inside anyway.
So, oh, yes, you're absolutely right. And
Yeah,
and so I have this question because that's how my mind works. That's part of my
sure.
job. So, and because I don't know, I'm just a curious soul.
Sure.
So, so from a healer, from a highly skilled healer standpoint, as everything is expanding in this existence that we're in this experience, everything is expanding. So, what? Because I saw a video. Magenta Pixie's going to come back on, and I just happened to catch part of one video. She talks about, are we living in a multi-dimensional reality?
Mm,
And I thought, that's a very good question. That's a question of truth.
yeah.
You either believe or you don't believe. So what does that mean? And there's all these different things that come. But from a healing perspective, I want to rephrase it. From a healer's perspective, you know, I don't know how to do this, but let's say I have one way, because I consider myself, I don't like the labels, but
Yeah.
I've done some of that work.
Yeah.
Let's say I have this way of doing it,
Uh-huh.
whether it's connecting with the specific essence
Right.
or the modality itself. With dimensionality, I would think that our abilities to go into the different branches of the tree as we
Mhm.
expand, we'd be able to pull out all these different skills and abilities, and along with that, the ability to heal, which I guess is what it always in the first place.
Yeah. Yeah. We exist. This is my understanding for the different dimensions. We exist in many dimensions simultaneously. There's a dimension where I'm wearing the same shirt in a different color. You're wearing that same shirt in a different color. There's a dimension where infinite numbers of dimensions, infinite possibilities. And so it's really hard to put it into words, but I see like this big, let's say this big ball of goo that is all that is. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And so all that is in that. That is God, source, you, me, and everything is in that. All the planets, all the galaxies, everything is in this big ball. Now, everything in there is an aspect of the creator or source energy. So source energy goes in to different timelines and different dimensions to experience itself as whatever it wants to, right? So you are a piece of creator experiencing itself as Todd Medina in this timeline and dimension. And I'm a piece of creator who is experiencing Michele in this timeline and dimension. And who knows about the other dimensions? Like,
well, I think we're starting to get it though. I think, you know, I mean, I can think of, I don't know, off the top of my head, at least two aspects that I'm familiar with. Actually, probably about 10 or 12.
Yeah.
And if I look at divine essences that have presented themselves to me, so to speak, I would have to throw that number way out there, you know, like maybe the 25 or 30 aspects that I'm familiar with. But the thing is what I'm saying is that each one of those aspects has its own branches, you know, so like, you know what I mean? Because like everything, like Morgan says all the time, a copy is a copy is a copy. So, you know, look at, you were saying about the orb, the globe or whatever. I was picturing an eyeball, that everything's inside that eyeball.
Yeah.
But the eye is seeing out, you know.
Exactly.
So
it's
like the chicken or the egg. It's like the chicken or the egg. What came first?
Yes.
Yeah, and they came in, you know. We don't have to understand all that though. You know what I mean? I'm just saying that I think the
words, but you know, words really don't do justice. It's the feeling behind everything, right?
That's true. Yeah. And that's what I think that's what quantum is. Quantum is feeling. Jane Jones was on the other day, and I asked him, "What's this thing? Well, you know, what is it, 11:11 or something?"
Yeah.
And I'm going off for the last 20 minutes, but I mean the tones are going off. But and I said to him, "What does it look like?" And he's like, "It don't look like nothing. It's feeling.
Right.
You're just feeling, you know." And that's the way he you know conveyed that energy. I just saw it as like, you know, it was the inside of the orb was reflecting outside.
Yes.
And I think a lot of those young kids have that, you know, because they haven't been as brutalized as we were.
Much less brainwashing. Yeah. That's definitely true. I lost my train of thought. I was going to say something.
It's 5:55 in New York City.
It is perfect timing.
That's why I like doing this show. I have the thing set up on New York time.
Oh, do you?
Yeah, on this computer. Everything else I have on my local time. But I mean it's exciting. I you know, the energy is so present. Well, we don't have a choice.
Exactly.
And we're either going through some pain, and that's all relative to our own life experience. My pain's equal to yours is equal to mine. But it is leveling up. Things are getting louder. The voice that hardly talks and always listens is talking a lot or more, and it's talking louder. And the one that always talked and wouldn't shut up is talking louder too, you know. And again, that eyeball, whatever we're carrying inside is we're seeing outside. This is
and it's all a mirror of our perception, which is another thing I found quite interesting. And just to put it into a metaphor, let's say you're looking out your window and you see your neighbor's sheets hung up on their line. And you think there's mud all over them. Like, why are they hanging up these dirty sheets? The dirty sheets hanging on the line. What is with that? So you go talk to your neighbor. Say, why do you got all these dirty sheets hung up in your line? That doesn't make sense. And your neighbor stops and looks and points out, well, actually, the sheets are rather clean, but your windows are dirty. Right?
See, and I love that. And I love that because when people do come at you with the chicken or the egg, what does it matter? That's kind of a problem I have with a lot of the Far Eastern stuff, because it's like, well, what does it matter? I'm emotionless, you know. No, to me, so in other words, we could be a dot on one of those little glass things under a microscope, you know, or a piece of dew in the morning in some far, you know, whatever. I don't know.
Yeah.
But how do we know or not know that what we carry forward in faith, the transitive verb to trust and believe, or whatever you want to call it, that energy of I am soul, I am God, I am
Yeah.
goddess, whatever. How do we not know that that's all, that's it right there. There never is this, oh, you came from here, it's
Yeah.
gone, the
Yeah.
past is gone,
We
if everything
are
is right
that
here.
big blob.
We're Yeah, we're actually the orgasm.
Yeah.
That's what I look at it. We're the
Yeah.
soulgasm. We're the
Yeah.
soulgasm.
We are it.
So yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah. It's awesome.
All right. So you've got something you're coming out with,
Yes.
and I'm gonna pull it
It's
up real quick. Let me see.
okay.
I saw this. It says turning chronic illness into chronic satisfaction.
Yes.
And then my name is Michelle Ann. I have been living with multiple sclerosis since the age of 13. After being put on long-term disability at age 26, I set out on a mission to find wellness through trial and error. I have experienced great healing, and many of my symptoms have gone into remission by creating an opportune environment for healing. So you are coming out with a 6-week program
Yes.
uh, where you're going to personally hold the client's hand, the brother, the
Mhm.
sister, and how to implement this in a
Yeah.
simple and
I'm
efficient
going
technique.
to,
And yeah,
yeah.
this is
Yeah.
very. Yeah, go ahead.
We'll have checklists to make sure, like something as simple as water. Like I think I read the other day, it was like 75% of Americans are chronically dehydrated. Well, you can't get the nutrients to your cells if you're dehydrated. That's what does it all. We are supposed to be 75% water. And then when you add all these energies that we're being bombarded with on a regular basis, and then we're trying to clear our bodies of the dis-ease that's in there and bring the nutrients to our cells, we need the water. And so something as simple as drinking enough water, making sure you include certain vitamins into your diet, making sure you're getting enough sleep, meditation, finding that sweet spot and how to allow. And a lot of times it's just revising your schedule to allow you to get everything in there that you want to do in the highest and best way without putting you in a more, without adding more dis-ease to
Mm-hmm.
what you're already going through. So when we relax and just allow ourselves to be where we are, we're going to start to float. And
Yeah.
the more we do it, and the more we do it, the more we float and the better
Yeah.
we feel. And if you have a setback or a bad day, don't beat yourself up. Like when I had to go for medication, I was like, no, I don't want to go for medication, So what did I do? I threw a bunch of resistance all over it and I made myself sick. Where
Right on.
just go with the flow, path of least resistance. I didn't need to argue with anybody about what medicine I needed or didn't need. I'm here, whatever. Nothing's going to hurt me. Everything's preordained. So I'm not worried about it. And I just stay to the medicine. I'm like, okay, well, Creator, it is commanded that whatever I need in this medication is utilized the
Yeah.
highest way in my body, and that the rest of it is
Transform it.
yeah.
Physical representation of energy. Yeah,
Exactly.
I'd love to work closer with you on this. Like I said, this is
Sure.
good timing because I have whatever, downloaded or whatever you want to call it, something that fits with that. As I'm trying to convert this into physical reality. I'm talking about the network and what's on the network and what it actually is. And that is, you're integrating the physical with the etherical.
Yeah.
Everything we're doing. So it's both a virtual world and I'm sitting here, you're sitting there world.
Yeah.
But yeah, and in a way, I don't want to get into it right now. That's why I said let's talk about it a little bit and start to alert people to it.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying is I see a way it can be done.
Yeah.
And it's like a win-win-win-win for
Yeah.
everyone, because I think we're all traversing this as healers, as artists, as emancipators, liberators, wave
Yes.
showers, whatever you want to call it. And we're integrating the old energy exchange with what is the new one. And so
Yeah.
I want to work with you on that. And
Awesome.
and so now, in the meantime, are you alerting people in Soulogy and on your page? Are you about to do that?
Yeah.
Have you already done it? Because I thought I saw it. I
Yeah.
thought I
I
saw it a couple
put
of days
it out.
ago. Yeah.
Yeah. I put it out, and it was like,
Mhm.
I've been kind of struggling with wanting to know how to create. I said, well, how better to create a program than actually, we learn best that which we teach.
Yeah.
So if I can enroll people for like for 6 weeks at $222, that's a steal. Like that,
Yeah.
I think it works out to 30 something a week. And I'm in Canada, so if you pay that in American, it's even cheaper for you guys, right?
All right.
Um, so
So
it
yeah,
works.
yeah, that's excellent.
Yeah, like it's a really decent price. Everybody can afford that,
Yeah.
and we'll
Mhm.
have meditations, right? Guided
Mhm.
meditation.
Yeah.
Do theta healings. We can do it in a group format through Zoom, or we can do it one-on-one.
Yeah.
Everybody will have a one-on-one session
Yeah.
with me who does join that. Um, could be one, could be two. Again, I don't know, which is why I'm just throwing it out there for the
Yeah.
introductory
Well, I
price.
think I was going to say, when you said, how do you do this? I think you just put it out there. I mean, that's what this is. I mean, we're anything that you can debate and argue and how this works and how that works. But one thing we all know is telepathy is the order of the day, and it's expanding. So we just have to be straightforward about it. And I'm being straightforward with you. I
Yeah,
see Katie's on here. I'd like to talk to her about it. But it came to me just these, actually last night,
right.
and that was to actually create something that more people gain from it. And the exchange is, instead of like onesie onesie, you know what I mean? It's like 1 to 100, but the exchange is equal, because every one of us and those people out there that have been doing this for so long,
Mm,
they're worth $1 million. You know what I mean?
uh,
You guys are worth the millions of dollars, but just a new math. And so I came across something. So this is good timing. And I noticed Katie was on here. She said, here, I think, when you said you're from Canada. But
oh, awesome.
she lives in
Halifax, I believe. Actually, the last Theta seminar I was at, I referred somebody to her.
yeah.
Somebody had come up from Halifax to Moncton to take the Theta Healing course, and I recommended them to Katie because she's like, we don't have anybody in Halifax. I'm like, yeah, you do.
Right on, man. Well, you guys should hook up. All right, I'm gonna run. I'm 5 minutes late.
Oh,
And
yeah.
that's not abnormal. So I'll see you next Tuesday.
Yes.
Hey, Tuesday. Please tell me it's Tuesday. Yeah.
It's Tuesday, yes.
Yeah. Well, I'll see you next Tuesday. Let me see what else.
Yeah.
If yeah,
I'll put my book again. I'll put that in the links. And
yeah, your
if
book.
anyone wants to reach out and send me an email, I'll put my email address in there too, and let me know if you would like to participate
Yeah,
in this course
yeah,
and
and
how
we'll,
it
and
could.
we'll keep evolving that too, because
Yeah,
I see it. I'm excited,
yeah,
but I've learned two things. One is to listen to that voice
yeah,
and don't get caught up in this.
yeah.
And then number two is I need to shut the F up. So I'm not going to talk a lot about what I got, but I see it already. And as it was explained to me yesterday, which I know is just is a representation, because as the individual goes, so goes the collective. And
Right.
that was basically energetically, you guys have already done this.
Awesome.
It just has to, and that's true for everything though.
Yeah.
That's true for the illusion of disease,
The
and
manifesting. That's why
we create that stuff.
you're just waiting for the materialization of it all.
There's Katie right there. She says she had no idea we were so close. That is excellent. Let us connect
We're
in
only
real life.
2 hours away, Katie.
Yeah. All right. So I'm gonna head out. I gotta go. Love you.
Love you too,
Love
guys.
everybody.
Bye.
Be back on here in a little bit. We got. I already set the calendar down.
Yeah.
I think we have Zavetta Da Vinci. I think is in an hour, and I think an hour after that is Anastasia Campos, who is incredible Blu-ray elder. Wow, new addition, man. She's something else. So, see y'all later. Take care.
Awesome.
Bye, Michelle. Take
Bye.
care.